Okay, and we are live. So, welcome back, everyone, to part three of how racism impacts Black women in corporate America. So, tonight I have a whole new set of panelists, and these ladies are also co authors for the upcoming anthology, which is called Shut 'em Down. Black Women, Racism in Corporate America. If you haven't checked out the website, I need you to do that right now. There you can see who all of the authors are. You can also visit their websites, learn more about them. And we also added an extra page where you can check out the lives that we've been doing on LinkedIn. So they are added each week. So if you missed part one and part two, you can go to the website and you can check those out at your leisure. And if you have not ordered a copy, we need you to go ahead and take care of that right now as well. So again, need you to visit the website, which is called shutthemdownanthology.com. So we are not going to hang around that much tonight with all that talking. We're gonna go ahead and jump in. You all who are in the chat, y'all love to have those sidebar conversations. Knock yourself out. If you have questions that you like for us to answer, put it in the chat. Make sure that when you're in the chat, you introduce yourself, say where you are from. We like to keep it friendly. We're not trying to be ugly. We want to have some positive and healthy conversations and discussions around this because what we have found, especially me being the person who pulled this anthology together, is that Black women go through a lot on the job, especially in corporate America. Like the higher you climb, it seems like the more that you go through. But for whatever reason, it has been taboo throughout the years for us to really sit down and have a meaningful conversation about how traumatic some of those experiences can be, the hurt that a lot of women feel, how it impacts their self-esteem and sometimes their self-worth, and what Black women really go through to pull themselves out of those situations. So that's why we're having these conversations. So again, we're going to keep it positive in the chat, no tearing each other down. Some people just don't understand. And so if someone's asking a question and you can answer it, please take that opportunity to do so. So we are going to go ahead and do our introductions for tonight. So we're going to start off with Dr. Tracy.
Hello, everybody. And first of all, thank you, Dr. Carey, for convening this group of ladies together. I am Tracy Daniel Hardy, and I am an educator. I'm actually a director of technology for a public school system in South Mississippi. This is my 26th year in education. I have been not only a director of technology, but also an instructional technology specialist, a guidance counselor for high school students, and a technology teacher for middle school and high school students. I'm just happy to be here.
Welcome. So next we have Joanne.
Hi, Dr. Carey and everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. And Dr. Carey, I cannot say enough. Thank you for you. This anthology would not exist. We would not have been brought together. And so I just want you to know what a wonderful thing you have done, not just for 20 women or 19 women plus yourself, but other women as well who will get a chance to hear our stories and see themselves and know how they can stand up and be strong and survive. So thank you so much for everything you've done. My name is Joanne Meredith. I am from Maryland. I live in Maryland. I'm originally from Buffalo, New York. I'm actually in the fundraising area. I work at a university. I've been doing fundraising for nonprofits for about 20, 25 years now. And specifically, I do direct response marketing. And one of the things I absolutely enjoy is just looking at the data, using the data to drive numbers. And so at the end of the day, my goal is to raise money, and I enjoy it. So thank you so much for having me.
You are welcome, girl. Somebody got to get us that money. So next we have Terry Ann.
Hello, I'm Terry Ann Nash, hailing from St. Paul, Minnesota. I have an undergrad. My degree is in human rights, adult training and development with a minor in American Sign Language Studies. My master's degree is advocacy and political leadership. And both of those came from Metropolitan State University. I'm a proud alumni of Metro State. Most of my work and my background over the last 25 years, I've been studying under Dr. James Meredith, who is the civil rights leader, first African-American person of color to integrate college in America. So I'm very honored that now I get to add Dr. Carey to my esteemed list of experiential greets. And I say that because the work that you're doing, I believe that right now, this anthology, even tonight as we're on at this particular time, opposite another monumental thing that's happening with Kamala Harris. And, you know, you're talking about this time with Tracy Abrams and Keisha, you know, and all the people that we just have that are out here. And then here we can tell these stories so that people know that it's not just that we have arrived, but that the struggle over the struggle, as we continue to struggle, that we have people who are breaking ground now, but that it still comes with a cost. So I'm honored to be here and amongst these queens.
Thank you. Welcome. And last but not least, we have Alyssa.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Dr. Carey. And I very much echo what everyone else has said. It's just been such an honor, and I'm so grateful to have worked with such wonderful women that just exude Black excellence, and I love it so much. And as a young adult, it's just been a really awesome process to be able to share my story and know that I'm not alone in some of these things that I've gone through. These things aren't talked about as much in mainstream America, and it's nice to have a community, and it's nice to have a voice in an area that I really struggled in my young adult career. So my name is Alyssa. I am a student at the University of California at a school in Santa Cruz, and before returning to college to get my degree, I worked in administrative roles in healthcare and in education. It wasn't something that I was interested in. I wanted to go to school. I wanted to graduate college. So I am graduating this year, and I just got accepted to law school. So I will be a future, Alyssa Tambora Esquire someday. And I am passionate about criminal justice reform, particularly focusing on family connection for those who are incarcerated and their children. And so that's where a lot of my public service and public interest volunteer work is right now. And that's something I hope to pursue a career in the future.
All right. So as you can see, we have another diverse set of panelists tonight. We got some great questions. So we're going to go ahead and jump right in. Ladies, are you ready?
Yes.
Yep.
All right. So question number 1. Why are those with the same or fewer credentials offered more or better opportunities and credibility than Black women? So who wants to tackle that one first?
Dr. Carey.
Yes, ma'am.
I'll jump in on that one. And I'm not exactly sure who the quote is. I want to say it was that it was Malcolm X, and it might have been even in the movie. But there's a story where he tells about ice, and they talk about this ice. And so the Black man says to the other Black man, "Why did I watch you cross the street to buy the ice from the man over there when I had ice?" And he said, "Because that ice was colder." So sometimes it has nothing to do with the credentials, but all in what it looks like. And sometimes if we don't have the look, then we're often passed over for our credentials for someone who just has the look.
Mm-hmm. Or the colder eyes.
The colder eyes, yes.
Or the illusion of the colder eyes.
Exactly.
I agree. Who else?
I've struggled with that concept quite a bit. It just baffles me, and I wish I had answers, because if I did, I could sell it, package it and sell it and really make some money off of it. But it's a shame that we have to claw ourselves up to the door just to peek in at the table. to see what's going on when our credentials speak for themselves, when our work is proven, to be substantial and quality, that we still have to fight so hard for that seat at the table. It baffles me. And it baffles me even more now in our current political climate with what's going on tonight, even how we're so, invisible and discouraged from doing things that we have the, right to do. So if anybody has the answer, please share it with us.
And we're gonna get a patent on it.
Yes.
We're not gonna just get it copyrighted. We need a patent for that, and we can sell it. But yes, I definitely agree. Joanne and Alyssa, what do you guys think?
Dr. Carey, I'm not so sure, and Dr. Tracy, if I would say I'm baffled, more so than I am just annoyed. It is something that continues, and I'll take my profession in higher education and in fundraising. And so you will see a lot of women in general and a lower end of the positions, but you'll see a lot of white males that are VPs or AVPs. And so when you look at women of color, Black women, it's even fewer of us. So when you look at in terms of experience, clearly we have the experience because we've been in the profession for so long. But I agree with you, Terry Ann. It is the look, it is the colder ice, it is what they like to term as the fit. And and I hate that term. I absolutely, when you think about it, what does that mean? Fit what? I don't fit. I don't look like you. I don't live where you live. I don't play golf like you. What does a fit mean? And so I do think that it needs to be addressed, and I think we can't give up, but it does, I'm annoyed by it because it is something you see that is persistent. It is persistent. And until we get more of us, women of color, Black women in higher positions, it's not going to change. I will say this, I make it a point wherever I am to bring someone on staff that is African American because I want to groom them. I want to train them. I want to see that when I leave that job, they are ready to do that job. That has been from day one, whether in public broadcasting, nonprofit, or higher education. That has been my priority. And I think we have to do that. We have to change that.
Right. And Joanne, I just don't see that, I know in my career, one of the things that I didn't see was other Black women trying to groom that next person to step up to the plate, especially in higher ed. And so what I would see is that you have someone who had been in this leadership position and then they died, and then the person who took their place didn't know what they were doing. And so then, then it's just looking, and everybody's scrambling. And it's just like, they didn't leave a blueprint. They didn't prepare someone. They didn't train someone. Everybody's like, no. It's just like, why? Why did you hold on to that power for that long and not make sure that the person who was going to walk in your shoes could do your job and even show them how to be a better leader, greater leader, free thinker, and to go beyond what you have established. And so I just think that does us a disservice.
I agree with you. I agree.
Well, I've always wondered about that, and it seemed to me that they wanted to leave a legacy and wanted to leave the mark that nobody else can do this like I can. So everybody else has to figure it out. I've experienced that, and it was interesting because it's like you don't want anybody to do it better than you. You will want to leave it so that somebody can do it better than you. You want to empower somebody else, to walk in your shoes and walk even farther than you did and go higher than you did. But oftentimes it's just about, I want to be remembered for doing such a great job, and I don't want anybody else to be remembered.
That's right. Everybody else is gonna fall flat on their face.
That's a nice way of putting it.
So, Alyssa, you're the youngest out the group. What do you think?
Well, I just have such a different perspective. I think because I'm a little bit younger and I don't have as much, work experience that I feel like in my time when I was working in higher ed that I was in a position really to take on more like senior leadership roles, also because I was still in school. But I did look for opportunities, you know, that were suitable for like what my position was. And even those were limited. Like even those I was restricted from doing, even though I proved over and over again that I had the skills and I was very much capable of doing it. And I definitely felt like I didn't understand, okay, like why am I not getting these opportunities that I've asked for, that I've pitched for, that I've prepared for? Why am I constantly being rejected for this one particular thing or this role that I really wanted? And, you know, I honestly felt like there was some gaslighting involved, this sort of like, well, you don't have, you know, you don't have this credential. And that's what I wrote my chapter on, credentials and credibility. How good is good enough? That's the title of my chapter, because that kept being the thing. You don't have this credential, even though I had the skills. And I kept thinking, okay, well, it doesn't really make sense because other folks who are doing this also don't have that credential. So, you know, what's the disconnect there? And it was actually an intern who was a high schooler who was a white boy of a friend of one of our directors that got one of the roles that I wanted. And I said, oh no, now it makes sense to me. Now it makes sense to me why I'm not good enough, because I'm not white, because I'm not a male, and because you don't get some sort of privilege from offering me more opportunity. So I don't know. So my perspective is a little different because I am coming from being someone not in leadership roles and being from someone who understood like my lack of credentials in some area were going to limit some opportunities. So I would try and seek out others. But then because I'm a young, you know, Black and brown woman in that specific context, like I wasn't being afforded even those opportunities either. So that's when I realized, you know, I'm never going to be good enough. So I might as well go get that degree. So then I won't be good enough for you then, but at least I'll find a different position or find, you know, like someplace else where I can be. But it's honestly, it's refreshing to hear y'all talk about being, you know, Black women leaders and saying you're going to continue to lift up like the youth, the young Black adults, because we need that. We need that so much, because I can tell you there were no Black leaders where I worked, none. So even if like I wanted that to happen, that itself wasn't even a reality for me. So that's what I got to say about that.
But you know, and I would say this, Alyssa, before we move on to the next question. I think we probably all have been where you've been when we were younger and felt the exact same way. We just, at some point, you, like you said, you go get the degree and you be like, okay, like let me at least kind of get the playing field a little even. It's not going to be completely even, but I know what I need to do where you can't disqualify me in all areas. It will only be some, and my education is not going to be one of them. Like
you know what's a real power move? I'm gonna go get a degree that's higher than the degrees they have. So that's a real ass power move. Excuse my language.
Yeah. Look, speak on it. Exactly. Sometimes that's the move we gotta make. And then you gotta pull that out. It's just like playing a game of spades. You gotta know when to pull out the right card and slam it on the table.
Can I also just say too, even though I'm young, I do want to urge like other Black, you know, young leaders out there. I do other work and I bring on volunteers and we vet my volunteers and I try to choose volunteers of color, particularly women, and like how can I give them opportunities that I have, like the minimal access and opportunities that I have, how can I lift up others with me? So that's also really important.
I agree.
Can I say something? I have to say that I was very, very blessed here to be, you know, pulled along by some great other women of color, you know, making a secret phone call, sending letters to, you know, give you a heads up about something opening, you know, making sure that you had your credentials in line. And I'm still surrounded you know, by many of those. And because of that, you know, they instilled that in me. I try to do the same thing, you know, as many people that I can, you know, to try to give them, you know, a heads up, the skill set, you know, or opportunities that, were also afforded to me. So, to whom much is given, much is required. I believe that because of these awesome women that did that for me. So, there are some out there that are doing that. And when I say they're my friends, like they're 83, 84, much older than me, who have, nurtured me and still to this day, give me advice and want to talk about things. So I was very blessed in that aspect.
Yes, ma'am.
One thing,
Yes,
Dr.
ma'am.
Carey, to that, can I just add one thing, one comment?
Uh-huh.
I had a young man who was interviewing for a job, and he was not probably qualified or ready for the job. And I said to him, "Why are you looking to come here versus where you are?" And he said, "Because I reached out, and since my supervisor has left me and went on to another position, no one is interested in mentoring me." And that to me, and he was a Black male, he was young, said he had 2 or 3 degrees. I'm going to hire him. And I did. And because to me, it was important because he had said he was never going to get a chance in this field. And so I think we do have an obligation. And so when I hear Alyssa say not good enough, take that language and turn it around. We are more than good enough. It's just we can never be to the point where we're constantly proving ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
We're constantly having to do that, constantly. No matter what we do, we've raised $50 million, whatever. You're constantly going to be like, well, now let's up the ante. And you can see people as your peers who are young, less experienced, different color, different sex, gender, move right on past you.
Yeah.
And so we just have to do what we can to support one another.
And may I jump in, Dr. Carey, there? On the piece on supporting one another, that's the piece I would like to say. I'm up here in Minnesota, so I have to keep saying that the epicenter, there's a reason why we're the epicenter. The numbers here tell you that. So when we say minority, we are the minority. And so our numbers are very small as it compares to our counterparts. But with that being said, it's like you go in someplace and you see somebody who's of color and you say hi and you get that little camaraderie and they say, "Do you know them?" And you don't most of the time. But here's the thing. We should take advantage of that to some degree, because when we do see a young person coming into a job, or we do have another person of color who comes in, and we know that we're being managed by the powers that be. Okay, we know that whoever the hierarchy is, that's what it is. But there's nothing that says that we can't be more friendly toward each other and show some love on the job. When you spoke, I kept thinking of this acronym, and I don't want to use it, but it starts with an H, wanting to be the head. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You want to be the head so much that you cut off everybody else because you want to shine. And then you create this, you basically perpetuate the stereotype, because now the people who see you treating your own people badly feel like, okay, now we can go back to the old way of doing things, and we pit each other against each other. So now we got our overseer, or the pet to the boss, who now is making life miserable for all the other people, holding them to every nick and cranny, when they could be more of a mentor, could be more love. Because even when they use you to get rid of us,
Yes.
that you really, the person who's been used really doesn't look that good at the end of the day. They just look how expendable they are to those people who use them to do their work.
This is true. And then, and they have to also realize that they are being used. And I've been in the situations where it's like, we all realized they were being used. They didn't realize that they were being used. They thought that they were, playing it safe, and that's someone's chapter. They thought they were playing it safe, or positioning themselves to have that quote unquote seat at the table. And they were doing whatever it took, not realizing that that wasn't going to guarantee their seat at the table. Which takes us into our second question. Why are we still fighting for a seat at the table, or fighting for a voice when we get to the table, when we have the credentials? And I think this question, we gonna start off with Dr. Tracy?
Because they want us to know our place. They want us to stay in our place. And they want us to be knocking on the door. You know, sometimes they give us a seat at the table and they want to have a side conversation with you to make sure you know how to act while you're at the table. You know who got you to the table. Not that your credentials got you to the table, but you know why you're there. So you have to stay loyal, and you just need to stay truthful and true, and do what you're there to do, not necessarily to make friends. You're there because you're committed to the mission and vision of the organization. And for my, instance here is for the children. Every decision that we make, everything that we do is ultimately for the children. And so if I have to be concerned about rubbing elbows and kissing butt, just to stay at the table, send me back. Send me back. So
I totally agree. Before I jump in, anyone else? Carey Yazeed.
Well, when you say, why are we still fighting for a seat at the table? What I had really saw in my mind is the reason why we're fighting is because they play us like musical chairs. They play 4 people in 3 chairs, and then they sit back and watch us. So one of the jobs that I was at, employment per place, they took away they had a flat across the board raise, annual raise that everyone was supposed to get. But they decided to make it more interesting. They would make everybody work compete almost for their raise within a percentile. Yes. Now that was supposed to bring camaraderie to the group, or what? All I saw it do was look at how people were going to scratch and claw to come up with new innovative ideas and try to outdo everybody. And the powers that be were going to sit back and collectively watch, take notes, get new ideas. And as they would do their budget cuts and put their new programs together, they knew who they were going to get rid of, because even though you might have had the good idea, if they knew they were stealing it from you, they couldn't keep you around.
Right. Yeah, definitely.
That's why we don't have voices as well.
I think for me, one of the things that I saw was that, when we talk about this question, was that I would always apply for like leadership positions. I had been in the field of social work for like over 20 years. I had graduated from one of the top social work schools. So I had the credentials, I had my license, I had checked all the boxes, as my mom used to say. And I was just like, okay, so why am I not getting these positions? And one day it dawned on me when I, interviewed for a job, and I was actually, the supervisor was one of my, we went to grad school together. We were the same age. She was white, I was black. So here she is, she's a supervisor, she making 6 figures. And all I remember from grad school was she didn't know her head from her toe. Like, she would sit in class and it just was, so it's just like, I was sitting there like, how the hell she got this job? Okay, I need a job, so let me just play nice. And so, as cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, well, she had this thing that she would hire Black people, and on the 89th day, she would fire you. Because your promotion, you were on a probationary period, and on the 90th day, you would be made permanent. So she would do this kind of like as for kids. She would just say she didn't think you were a good fit for the agency, and it was a state agency. And so I never forget when she was leading up to firing me, because I already knew the routine. And so we were sitting in a meeting, and so she decided that she was going to insult me in front of the whole staff. And she said, I just don't know where you got your degree from, who would give you a degree. And, she doubted my credentials. So, I just started laughing. And I said, well, sweetheart, if you think I got bad credentials, you got bad credentials too. And she said, oh no. And she said the name of the school we went to. And I said, yeah, we graduated together. I said the date that we graduated. And she said, oh no, you didn't go there. You didn't finish with me. And I said, you asked for a copy of my degree. Now my transcript, my degree is in my employee folder, You go and look. But if I'm sitting here and I'm a Black woman that don't know what she's doing because of her education and her credentials, well, we sitting in the same boat because we went to the same school, got the same degree, walked across the same stage on the same day at the same time. It don't get no better than that. They just gave you the position of being a supervisor and not me. And I said, if you don't want me to tell everybody at this table what your performance was like in grad school, so we're just not going to go there, okay? But we're not going to do the insulting the Black woman and her education. And I said, I paid the same amount of money for my degree as you did. And it was just kind of, but then I was sitting there like, why we got to do this, And then when she fired me and she said, you're not a good fit. And I said, okay, then fine. Where's my pink slip? And so she said, was that it? You don't have anything else to say? I said, girl, you gonna let me go so I can go get my unemployment because they got a sale at dealers. I'm trying to go catch the sale. I'm not sitting here being bothered with you today. I got kids. I can get unemployment for the summer. That means I ain't got to pay for summer camp. Like, you doing me a favor. And she was mad that I didn't get mad, that she was trying to tear me down. And I really walked away like, I don't want to sit at your table. Like, I know I'm better than you. But if these are the people that they're putting at the table, I don't want to sit at that table. And I think sometimes we just have to be honest that all tables aren't meant for us to be sitting at. Like, we don't even need to be fighting to sit there. Just walk past the table and keep going, Dr. Tracy.
No, I was just saying peace.
Yeah, that's pretty much what I walk out the door, like, with my little pink slip, like, yeah.
I'll add to that. On the day I knew it was coming, I decided to dress up in my Sunday best, and I went in there with my Dooney merch and everything. So I said, well, I might as well walk back out of here in style.
But I think we talk about Shirley Chisholm, who said, when they won't give you your seat, bring a folding chair. But I think we are at the point now, especially in this political climate, that my thing is, if I got to bring a folding chair and ask you to move over, I don't want to sit at your table. I can go and order me a nice executive chair and order me my own table, and I can set up shop for myself. Like, I think Black women are at that level. We just don't give ourselves credit, that we think in order for us to be seen as credible, we have to have their acceptance, and we have to have that seat, that proverbial seat at their table. But I'm just like, what happens when you build your own table? And then we do what Alyssa says and what Joanne says, is that we're bringing in younger Black women and we're training them and we're giving them opportunities, and we're not waiting on other people to take care of our youth, to train up our youth so they can replace us. And we're not waiting for other people to say it's okay for you to be in leadership, to do what you do. You give your own self like that, I guess, pat on the back and say, go ahead, girl, you can do this. You don't need them people to tell you you can. You can.
Yeah.
I
was reading something, and I'd heard it before, that said, as a group, Black women are the most educated group in the United States. And part of that is sad, because we feel like we have to go back and go back and go back to get additional degrees, additional credentials, so that we can prove ourselves, so that we can, as Alyssa was talking about, try to get that job that we know someone who doesn't look like us and less credentialed, less experienced, will get over us. And, that's sad. But knowing that, we have those credentials, as my little cousin says, y'all got receipts. I'm going to show you some receipts about this, we have those, and we still are not good enough. We're not good enough. And I'm just concerned that with the current political climate, that it's not going to get better right away. But I'm encouraged because so many of our young ladies are becoming entrepreneurs. They're blazing trails. They are not even trying to get at the door to get a seat at the table. They are crafting their own table. They got a saw and some nails and hammers, and they're building their own tables. And I'm encouraged by that. and then it makes me feel a little bad, like, why don't I have that? We were not encouraged like that, because we were encouraged to get those credentials and try to get a seat at the table. As long as you dressed the right way, you had the right credentials, you talked the right way, you went in there the right way, you weren't too angry, things like that. But they're going in, in a different way, and I'm very proud of that.
They're
I love
making their
it.
way. And
Yeah.
I think that I agree with Dr. Carey. If you don't want me at the table, I'll go and make my own table. I think that's the time it is. And I think when you look at the younger generation, they're doing that. I remember my mom used to always say, you don't try to buy friendship. And so when I got to bring my own chair to your table, then I'm buying that position. I'm buying my space. And I think, and we keep saying that we're not good enough. And I know what we mean by that, but I just want us to remember there's a reason we're being excluded, because we're always questioned. Can she be that smart? Can she know all those things? Yes, we are. We are that smart, and we do know all those things. And so I agree with you, Dr. Carey. I once had an opportunity to say, would you take this position? And I said, no, because those are not people I want to break bread with.
Yeah.
And that's, to me, that's my degree of measure. If I'm not interested in breaking bread with you, and I know that comes with that position, I'm going to decline it nicely.
Yes. Yeah, I was queen for that. If I went in an interview and I didn't like your vibe, I'd be like, y'all don't call me for a second interview. Like I had no problem saying it. I recently did it when I was interviewing for another assistant professor position, and it was an HBCU, and I was all excited because that's my research is HBCUs. And when the whole interview committee came on, y'all know we're in the middle of COVID, right? So the whole interview committee came on Zoom, and I had this confused look, and I was like, I know I applied at a HBCU, but I was like, why all these white people on here? And then they started saying their positions, and I was like, that must not have been an HBCU I applied to. Like, I started doubting myself, right? Because I was like, they're all like, they deans and they assistant directors. And so I just kept saying, well, where the hell did I apply? Like, I really was just like, okay, I'm getting the old people brain. I can't remember nothing. Y'all. And so when I started talking about my research, one of the people said, like, well, do you research anything else? And I said, no, I research Black people. Like, that's my thing. That's what I do. Like, if I don't fit in, I'm not going to change who I am. I'm not going to research something that doesn't interest me. When I got off, I went to see, like, where did I send my CV to? And I just screamed because I was like, oh, I was right. Okay. I was like, this was HBCU. I don't know who they sent in. I politely got on my email and I said, thank you for the opportunity, but you all are not a good fit for my future career goals. And they were just like, but we are interested. And I said, I'm not. Because I was just like, if an HBCU gonna bring on a whole white panel to interview me with the afro, this not gonna work. Because you telling me who I gotta eat lunch with, who I gotta do faculty meetings with, who these people sitting here asking me, do I research any other thing or people besides Black people? But y'all got them in leadership positions at a HBCU. And I got to go back to the website and find HBCU in the fine print, because you really are HBCU. Like, and Joanne, and people just said, Dr. Carey, how you telling people no? Easily. I sent an email. I'm not going to do that to myself. I know me sitting at your table, we're going to be fist fighting. It ain't going to be nice. I ain't going to be there past the year. So I am not doing this to myself. Like, I think we get to a point in life where you stop wanting those seats so bad, and you just be like, is that seat gonna be worth it? And I've said no. As I've gotten older, I think I've said no more than I've said yes. And I think that's okay. Yes, Terry.
Carey, here's what I would want to interject with that. As you were talking, though, there's some things that I came up that my political leadership kicked in. as we're talking about the roles of women and as we're talking about where we are in the climate, one thing that we must understand that all of this is by design. When we're not able to get to that table, we're not able to not only get into leadership, but we're not able to get into ownership.
Mm-hmm.
If we're not in ownership, we're not in corporate America. And if we're not paying very close attention to what the pulse of corporate America is, the person, our POTUS right now will tell you, he is only watching one market. And while he watches that market is the pulse of America. So what I've noticed is when you look at someone like Oprah Winfrey, she owns a percentage of her company.
Mm-hmm.
But what we have had to do is go outside of the country, because if we go outside of the country, economically, we liberate ourselves. So me as an economic equity empowerment ally, what I'm saying to that is when we talk about what Miss Joanne talked about, the whole mentoring piece, that's why I feel it's very critical in this time that we have people like Dr. Carey and Dr. John Hope Bryant and some of the others who are talking about civil rights, who are talking about how we're elevating up. It's not just enough to have this conversation, but to be with our third eye of consciousness open enough to understand how they play the games. So when Dr. Tracy, you were talking, I was listening to you because my focus is on ADA. So as I'm trying to liberate and look at our brothers and sisters who aren't even at the door yet, much less the table. Dr. Andrew Foster was a Black man who was a deaf man, and he aspired to help his people. And every time he got to a level of credentialing, he was told, go back to school, go back to school. And he did until he became Dr. Andrew Foster. And the great work that he's done in Africa with the deaf community has not been measured or matched yet since his death in the mid-'80s. But my point that I'm making is we have an opportunity to not just understand what our power is economically, but how we divest our power to ensure that the young Alyssas are going to have the things that they need. Because the word says, and I just got to throw in a little foundation for y'all. But
Oh, girl.
we take care of our children, okay? So as we're walking on, as Kamala's walking on, the Shirley Chisholms and the sick and tired of being sick and tired, Fannie Lou Hamers. We're here because of the James Meredith, and Alyssa is going to even take that torch after Kamala. And we're looking for you, sister, that you're going to go further. But in order to do that, bringing it back down again, we got Dr. Carey and John Hope Bryant and people like that who are going to nurture and who are going to cultivate the ground so that us others that are called to do our different jobs and talents can get in here and make sure that we penetrate corporate America and we get into Wall Street.
Right.
I agree.
That's where we got to be.
So, Alyssa, you done heard all of this. So what's your perspective?
I feel like as a young woman, I'm just going like, oh my gosh, I'm so excited, but also a little terrified to be, finishing school and then getting into my career. But just as a young adult, it's nice to hear such honest and frank conversations about what it's like, even when you do finish school, even when you have been working for 10, 20 years, like just to have that fresh, honest perspective of like, these are the challenges that we as, women of color are facing. And also these are the different ways that you can overcome that. And I really love the emphasis on ownership too, because that's something that as a young person, also as a millennial, right? Like my generation, we just don't have as much wealth. And as, a Black and brown millennial with some history of incarceration in my family and like some disenfranchisement there, like I don't have any sort of generational wealth backing me up. So for me, it's like, okay, as a young adult who knows kind of what she wants to do in the world, how do I create ownership around what I want to do and what are the steps that I need to take to get there, and where are the places I need to look for mentorship to get there as well? Because I don't want to be someone who is knocking at the door, peeping in, pulling my own chair. Like, I don't want to do it. I want to create my own thing. I want to do what I want to do. I don't want to have to answer to anyone just because you don't like the way I look. I don't want to do it. People ask me, oh, you want to go to law school? What do you want to do when you're done? I want to have my own law firm. And they look at me crazy. Like, I don't want to work for your daddy. I want to work for myself. That's just the way it works.
And we can stand people to you because we're like, yeah, we know a great lawyer.
Right.
But seriously, I don't know. So it's nice, just like I'm saying, again, just gonna repeat myself. It's nice as a young adult to be having these conversations, to be included in these conversations, and just to observe. I really feel like at this point in my career / education, like, I get to be that fly on the wall that gets to learn from all of your experiences, and that's really nice. That's helpful. We need this. We need more books like Shut 'Em Down. We need more of these conversations. And I don't know, I'm just thinking, like, I'm hoping there's some other, like, young adults out there that are listening to this call and who are getting as much from it as I'm getting. And how do we continue to engage our young leaders, and, like you guys were all saying, like, pull them up with us,
You just keep in mind, you have 19 when you count when you exclude yourself, you have 19 women who are invested in you. So whether it's tomorrow, next month, 6 months from now, or a year from now, you can reach out to any one of us and we will be there to help you. If you have that first position and you're not sure what to do, look back to these women. I found them to be very inspiring, very supportive, just a great group of women. And I like that. And one thing I do like is I like people who are honest and transparent, because that's the best thing we can be with one another. Because a lot of times we don't want to say what we don't want to hear, but when we are honest and transparent with one another, that's the best conversation we can have. Because at that point, if you come to anyone, Dr. Carey, Dr. Tracy, or Terry Ann, they're gonna be like, well, Alyssa, maybe you should have or could have done it this way. But here's what I would suggest you can do. So I'm proud of you. I think you're going to do great things. And I always say, even with my two daughters, I invest in young people because I want to make certain wherever they go, somebody will invest in them.
Yeah.
And I don't have to know them.
That's
I just know that they're going to be covered.
Yeah.
Okay. So you just don't think you have to build a mentorship program or anything. You got these women right here.
Your network.
We all got your back. We all got your back. No matter what it is.
Yes, sir. Because see, you the baby of the group.
I am. I know.
But
at the same time, though, everything y'all are teaching me, I get to then go and teach others as I get older. I just picture myself, 20, 30 years maybe ahead of where I am now, like having conversations with younger Black folks, like, all right, these are how these folks did it. This is how they taught me to do it. And this is how I'm going to teach you to do it. But at the same time, like, I want you to learn and grow and learn your own lessons, but I'm here for you. I'm not going to tell you what to do. I'm not going to drag you down. You want to take this route? That's okay. Because that's what's the most helpful.
Yes, love it.
There's also iron sharpening iron. So being that we built the computers and you're using the computers, the other piece that I would like to say is that collectively, intergenerationally, we have a responsibility to one in each other to keep creating safe spaces.
Right.
COVID, we have the opportunity to sharpen our technology skills, and I'm talking about me now. But I'm really saying that is going to be our next thing to take us to the next level. Is really any young people that are out there, any aging people that are out there. You can't break your computer, but just really get in there and tackle what we need to do, because there's work to be done. And even though we might have some people, like I was just talking to a lady today who is retired. I said, I'm doing an analysis. I'm watching you. I said, the Red Cross will come to your house and bring equipment to you for you to do navigation work right here in your home. I said, but the community needs to hear your voice just like anyone else's. And you've got that knowledge. So there's so many ways that as women of color, even in our different cycles of life, as Black women, that we can continue to build on our worth and continue to sharpen each other in our wealth and wisdom.
I
Yes, ma'am.
I agree. So that takes us into our next question. Kind of like when you say, I don't want to sit at your table. Can you fire a company? If yes, what would be your tipping point? Well, I told y'all I don't fire people before. I started that one off. So you guys can kind of build on that. You know, have you ever fired a company versus them firing you? Have you just said, this is not a good fit? I think it's time for me to bow out. I think we could start with Joanne.
You know, Dr. Carey, you fired a company before you even started. So, I mean, you told them before you even came into the door, it's not a good fit for you. And I admire that because I think you know right away if something works for you. I say yes, you can fire a company, just like companies fire people. I think if you look around and the opportunities are not there for you, you're not being respected or they're not honoring your gifts, you're not growing, take your gifts somewhere else. You're not, and I always say, if you can take control of your own life, you're better, you'll be better off in the long run. So I believe you can. And my tipping point would be it's not right. I feel it, I know it, it's not sitting well with my soul. And I see how people are being treated. And I always say there are no bad companies, there are bad people that run companies.
This is true. There's a lot of bad people. It'd be a great company. It'd be a great university, like or organization. But it's just you know, when you have bad people that are in leadership position or just people in general, just your general workers. I mean, I think I've been firing companies since I was Alyssa's age. You know, when I first got started, I would have my coworkers would laugh at me because when I started a job, I had this white box that would have all my belongings in it. And so I would put it all on the desk and decorate my space. And then someone would say, "Oh, let me throw it away." "Oh, no, 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 no." And so I would put the white box under my desk. And so the minute you got on my last nerve, I would go under my desk, pull my white box out. I'm gonna put and I know what fit in it. So I'm not trying to put your stuff in it. I'm just trying to put my little stuff, put all my stuff back in it. And I put it under my arm and put my purse on my shoulder. And I'd be like, bye.
I have that's my cue too, Dr. Carey. That's my cue as well. When I start to clear up my desk, that's a sign.
But yeah, you know, even the one where I got fired, and she said, "Well, do you want to clean off your desk?" Girl, I cleaned off my desk 2 weeks ago. I saw you were about to fire me, but I decided I wanted unemployment. So instead of me quitting, I was just like, "Well, she about to fire you. You get unemployment if you get fired. So we gonna ride this one out because I don't feel like paying for summer camp." I mean, but I have walked out of jobs and said, this is not a good fit. Now, I have heard when you're firing a company and people say, don't burn bridges. Well, I had this thing. Some bridges are meant to be burned the hell down, okay? So I won't go back over that bridge ever again. So that whole 2 weeks notice, sometimes you might not get that. Sometimes you're going to get a 5-minute notice. Okay, that's it. Okay, let me pack up my box. Here, y'all little ID badge go. I won't come back in your building. And bye. And you ain't never got to hear from me again. And I don't even want your unemployment because I'm going to quit. I'm going to go on about my business. This is not a good fit. And I just think, I know with my generation, I was always told you get a degree, then you get a good job, then you get a husband, you get 2.5 kids and a dog and a picket fence. Well, I'm divorced twice, so that ain't work. I got the 2 kids. I got 2 dogs over here. Good job. I had to create my own good job because I kept firing companies. They weren't a good fit for me. So I think it's okay to fire a company. Alyssa.
There's something I really want to bring up, and I hope others can touch on it, is the inequity in pay between Black folks in general, Black women and others. Because I think, just thinking about the handful of jobs I've had prior to, me starting my education, my tipping point was finding out that, Becky was getting paid more than me. Like, I did not I did not want to, that's not cool. We're doing the same job and she's getting paid a lot more than me, and that's not okay. And I've brought that up, and maybe I got like a little bit of a raise, but it wasn't the same. And so I don't know, that's when I found, all right, it's time for me to go and find another position. And then inevitably I get there and I find out that Brad's being paid more than me, and I just feel like it's this endless cycle that maybe hopefully would stop with some sort of ownership, like if you do reach this level of your working for yourself. But I wanted to hear other people's thoughts on that too.
Well, yeah, that was the first job that I had out of grad school. So I was training Becky, and I realized Becky didn't know as much as me. And so then I said, well, Becky, how much you get paid? Well, Becky told me how much she was getting paid. Becky was getting paid $10,000 more than me. And I was just like, so I went back to the supervisor and I said, you forgot a zero on my pay. Like, you owe me some more money. And her response to me was, so you got a pay raise. The response that I got was, you shouldn't be talking about salaries, that is inappropriate. And I said, well, Becky decided it was okay. So she told me, so how we gonna make this right? Because we are equal. We have the same degree. We just graduated. So again, like you said, it's the credentials. We're on the same playing field. And she basically told me, you decided to go to a private school to get your grad degree. See, we went to a state school. And I said, and what the hell does that have to do with crazy in China, and why she got more zeros than I do? And so she said, because I chose to take care of her. It's not my responsibility to take care of you. And so that was back to firing a company, because I said, okay, here your ID badge go. I'm going home because I'm not training her, and she got more Z. She getting paid $10,000 more than me. Something is wrong. And I got my purse and walked out the door. And the crazy part was the Black workers were like, don't quit. This is a good job. Is y'all crazy? That girl getting paid more than all of us. And she got less experience than y'all. Y'all been here a couple of years. We new kids on the block. But I said the supervisor feels that it's okay to pay her more because she looks like her and we don't. I was like, and no one sees a problem with that. So, I mean, I think it's great that they gave you more money, but I was told you don't discuss salaries. And that's when I realized you need to discuss salaries, because that's when I realized, and I think I was like 23. I was like, oh, it's a big old pay gap. Like, she get paid a whole lot of money. And that was at that time, it was not common. But I began, when I would go in and interview, I would ask for more money. The most you can do is tell me no, but you knew that I knew my worth. And so you're not gonna just pay me. You're not gonna pay me what they say on the little sheet that you gave me, that you advertised for this for. I'm gonna need some more, because somebody in this office is making more money. So we need to have a conversation. Now it's becoming more common for Black women to go in and say, hey, this is how much I want. But at one time, and I'm telling my age, but at one time, that was not, as I was told, that's not ethical. But I ain't never see that in nobody policy books. So it was ethical to me. How much everybody making? Let's have a discussion.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing with that too is make sure that you stay in your field. So as you grow in your credentials, make sure that you're searching for jobs that also are growing with you, because as a person that just recently graduated, I got caught up in that. And I started looking for jobs that I had the most experience in, not realizing that I was overqualified for those jobs. And that caused a problem once I got there. And one particular job, I was even taken back that a woman of color chose to hire me over a male. But that male was still hired within the company, half my age, and made more starting out than I did. And I had more credentials.
Yeah. Like the pay. You know, I found it sad that we have an organization that's called Lean or Lean In, whoever they are. You know, and they're bringing awareness to like the pay gap that we have with Black women. And my thing was, I don't need no day in August for y'all to remind me that I gotta bust my butt to make what they made to pay my bills, in, I guess, 12 months. I gotta work 18 months to make what y'all making in 12 months. That's not fair. But I didn't need you to have a whole national day to bring awareness. Black women being knew that. We being knew we were making what our counterparts was making. It's nice for you to bring awareness and put it out on the table, but don't think that we didn't know, and we know that they knew, you know. And is it going to get any better? And unfortunately, Alyssa, I can't say yes. And I think that's why we're seeing so many people in your generation and also Generation Z that are starting businesses, because I think you guys are smarter and y'all have realized that, well, if you're not going to pay me what I'm worth, let me go out here and create my own, and I'm going to make sure I make and I earn what I am worth. And I don't have to ask anybody, get anyone's permission, wait for a 10% raise, a 5% raise, or however much you want to give me, that I can go and do this myself. And that's what I really like about millennials and Generation Z, is that they have taken it to another level. And it's just like, okay, yeah, that's great. We got a day in August, but that don't apply to us because we out here making our own. Like we make our own rules, our own salaries, building our own tables. And so if you don't want to have us and consider us as equals, that's okay. We'll see you on the other side.
Yeah. I just think that, the inequity in pay really depicts our value, the value that they place on us, not our self-worth, but that's how they value us. And it's a shame. And that goes back to what I talked about earlier, how, according to some, Black women are the most educated group in the US. It's because we felt like we needed to get more credentials and degrees in order to be valued, have equal value of those who are less credentialed than us, and it's a shame. It's a shame. And, in some, sects, you can't have that conversation like you had, Alyssa or Dr. Carey, and they definitely don't all work out where they get a little bit of a raise like you did, Alyssa. Sometimes they're dismissed, or even bringing up the topic. Even before, they get to the place where Dr. Carey said, no, I don't want to be here, they're dismissed. And a lot of times we think we have to stay, for so long, not just me, a few, coworkers and I, we've just looked at each other and said, we're real stupid for still staying. We're sticking this out, but in the meantime, we see value in what we do, and we're taking the lessons that we've learned, and we're trying to pass those down and empower others through mentorships, and even some of those side conversations that some of my older friends had with me, coming up, so that they won't experience some of the things that those that came before us experienced, and even some of those things that we experienced. So it's a valid question. And, again, like the other question that I commented on, don't really have the answer to it. We know we should be getting it. We know that we shouldn't even have to have this conversation. Not just a day, we shouldn't even have to have this conversation. And then when you dig a little bit deeper, you're talking about not just Black women and women in general have this issue. So you're dealing with racism and sexism, and just to prove your worth. And it's a shame that here in 2020, we are still having this conversation. Songs that Marvin Gaye wrote way back in the day, movements that Martin Luther King Jr. and Malcolm X ushered in. We are still having the same conversations, fighting the same battles today in 2020 that we were fighting in the 60s and before. And it's a shame. It's a shame. And so if we don't change the narrative, in 30-20, we will be still having the same conversations. But maybe by that time, it'll be more Alyssas and more women of color who are business owners and don't need to, have a seat at the table or drag a chair into, that room to sit down. They will be building their own tables like Alyssa's going to do.
Dr.
That's great.
I would want to say with that too, listening to all of this, and part of what I'm hearing is just basically what this book is about. I got to bring it back around here. When we talk about shut them down, the imagery on that book, the book cover, says it all in terms of what happens to us as we become invisible, as the system kind of absorbs us if we allow it. So when I was thinking about my tipping point, there was a company I was working at as a safety auditor. I was the only person of color in the whole office. There were many people of color there, but they were in the field. And they were so threatened by my presence because I was asked to come in for my credentials that the other women did not want to train me. They were so scared to train me that I had to go to HR. And HR sent the executive director in to sit with them to make them train me. So when I came to my tipping point, I decided one day to make sure that they saw, as we talk about the images, and that I was not going to be absorbed into their backdrop. And so I gave up the corporate attire and I went traditional. And I came into my traditional Mother Africa.
Yeah, I got.
I also had my resignation in my pocket. So I went in and I said, take a deep breath. I said, and don't get scared. And he looked at me like this, and I said, I'm going to reach in my pocket slowly because I wanted to make sure that they were getting the big picture. And I pulled slowly out and I slammed it on the desk. And he says, what's that? I said, it's my dance card. I'm out of here. I said, but I'm going to give you 2 weeks. Well, after two days of wearing my attire, I think they realized this wasn't going to get any better. So the third day when I came in with my attire, I had a check waiting for me for my 2 weeks, and I was out of there. So
no, you gotta go.
Yeah, I had to go because whatever was going on with my presence and my connection to self, they became uncomfortable, even more uncomfortable with, the more I saw who I was and made them aware of that I knew who I was. So I say that we have to continue to push the envelope because it's not enough to have one party that could feel comfortable to think that they have us, but we push that envelope to democracy to make sure that all sides at least have somebody who represents one or two of our interests so that we have a fair choice to make. And that comes back to the industry and all that we're doing in it. It's one thing to create our own, but separate is not going to be equal. We need one system and they need to see us, accept us, and validate us appropriately.
And pay us.
We shut them down, Dr. Carey.
That's right. So as we wrap up, ladies, so our last question for tonight, I want you to tackle this question, but before you tackle it, tell everybody where they can learn more about you, if you want them to visit you on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, wherever. So our last question of the night is, how do you think this writing project will impact your future? So we're going to start with Dr. Tracy and we'll just go around.
So this is so outside of my box. It has pushed me to a level of discomfort. And I think that's a good place for me. You know, sometimes we can get comfortable. And so this was scary and I'm still a little scared, but it is also very, very therapeutic. And so I think that this project is going to allow others to see, the courage it took to, pen this stuff to paper. And I'm excited, about it. And, just when I started sending out text messages and the information through GroupMe, the information that started coming back and the phone calls and the separate texts, like I too have a story. Let me tell you about this. Not that they wanted to begin writing, but they just felt like, oh, I can talk to somebody about this, so there's a place for additional conversation around this topic. And I just think at some point, maybe that may be something that I'll do, is to, have a platform for others to discuss, their traumatic, the traumatic things that they've experienced in the workplace, regarding this topic. And so it may just be a Facebook group or something like that. But you can find more information about me at www.drtraceydanielhardy.com. That's www.drtracy.danielhardy.com. And thank you, Dr. Carey, for this opportunity.
You're welcome. And so, Joanne, how do you think this writing project will impact your future, and where can people learn more about you? Oh, you muted. You muted? Oh, wait, we can't hear you. What happened? Well, we're going to come back. Figure out what happened. All right, we're going to go to Terry Ann. So, Terry Ann, how do you think this writing project will impact your future, and where can people learn more about you?
Well, Dr. Carey, this project has really inspired me to get going on a lifetime thing that I've always wanted to do. And so many of the people here in Minnesota who went to school with me knows I've been writing since the 8th grade. I wrote a story in the 8th grade that was 126 pages long. And everybody kept saying, when are you going to write a book? And I said, oh, I don't even know where to start. So you have given me the opportunity to plant seed and start on this journey of writing. And so with this book, I'm sure it's going to lead to other projects that we'll talk about in the near future. But I can be found at www.nashinspired.com. And that's what I do. I hope that through the journey that I go on and that I live out loud with, that people can be inspired to just continue to do what they do in Parable of the Talents.
All right. Joanne, we got some volume. Now you low. I can hear you, but barely. Oh, see, the devil is a lie. Okay. Oh, now I really can't hear you. So we're going to switch to Alyssa. All right, Alyssa.
Is she on mute? Are you on mute?
No.
No. Okay. Well, I'll go. Okay. All right. So y'all can find me on LinkedIn. That's probably the easiest way to get to know me.
And how do you think this project is going to impact your future?
I think it's definitely going to impact me in a lot of positive ways. I'm loving the stories. It's just oof, they're so spicy and saucy and sassy, and I love it. And I feel a lot more confident about just being me. Honestly, like I don't need to be or act a certain way to be worthy of, just life in general, but of having a successful life, however I define that for myself. And so I just want to go forward being unapologetically woman, unapologetically Black, unapologetically me, and just have faith that I'm going to end up in situations, jobs, whatever my future employment looks like I'm going to land exactly where I'm supposed to be, and I'm going to be surrounded by people who respect me and want to support me. And like y'all were saying, if something's not working for me, I have the right to dip out. I don't need to tolerate abuse. I don't need to tolerate racism. I don't need to tolerate sexism. And I love the empowerment that I've gotten from this project and from the women that have been a part of this project. It just makes me feel very whole inside. And, oh, you know what? One thing, I'm going to say one more thing. Okay. I do that whole, like, I want to go get my hair braided, but I have that job interview or that whatever interview in 2 weeks. I should wait till after, right? Because they're not going to take me seriously if I have box braids, or, oh, my hair is a little gross today. I shouldn't put it in a wrap, though. I should just wash it and blow dry it and get it all ready. But you know what? I think I just might next time. I think I just might go forward and get my hair braided or put in a wrap or do whatever I want to do. And if you can't handle me with my blackness, then you can't handle me at all. So, whew, that's what I got to say.
All right, girlfriend. All right. Joanne, we got some sound. No, we'll have no. Okay, so Joanne Meredith is on LinkedIn, y'all. So you can visit her profile, and I actually tagged her in the flyer that I had from earlier today. So if you can go back on my LinkedIn profile and you find the flyer for tonight, I tagged her. Click that. That's gonna take you straight to Joanne. And Joanne does grant writing. Okay, so hint, y'all need some. That's your grant writer there. That's your girl. Hit her up on LinkedIn. See, Joanne, I got you. I got you. Y'all think I don't be knowing, but I know a little bit. So we want to thank everyone for joining us tonight. Next Thursday, same time, we're going to have part 4, which will be the last group of authors. If you have not ordered your book, I need you to go to shutthemdownanthology.com. The link is down below. And you also can learn about all of the authors, including Joanne. Everybody has a link that's going to take you to their website, their LinkedIn profile, or their Facebook page, where you can learn more about them and the different things that they are doing. So this is just not your ordinary group of women. They are doing some phenomenal things behind the scenes, in front of the scenes, with their own businesses. Like, I didn't bring in no half-stepping women. These women are really making a difference. I think you're going to enjoy their stories. I know you're going to be able to relate to at least one story, if not all of their stories. All of the stories are rich with emotions, but just different experiences that we go through as Black women in corporate America. Again, that has been taboo for us to talk about for years. This book, we're having the conversation. So make sure you support them. You grab a copy. Again, it's shutthemdownanthology.com. So thank you for joining us tonight. And we will see you next Thursday, 8 p.m. Eastern. Thank you, ladies.